Lilies of the Field by William E. Barrett. Chapter 6. A Livingston Construction Company truck delivered 1,000 bricks on Monday morning. There was no message, no explanation offered. There did not have to be. "Old man lost a bet with himself," Homer said. "He bet I wouldn't ever do this work. He bet I would be long gone by now." The new bricks were far superior to any that Homer had laid. Regular brickyard adobe, uniform in size and quality. It did not seem right to lay them on the upper levels with the inferior bricks below. The adobe coating, of course, would hide them, but Homer considered tearing out the front of the church and using the new bricks there. He didn't mind the work, but he decided against it. The people who had brought him bricks, when he needed them, had a right to have their bricks in the church where they were put. He had more bricks now than he had hoped for, and he decided to build his church higher. That would change the proportions, but it would be more impressive. He had a driving urgency in him, a sense of time that he had not had earlier. Time had not mattered. Now it did. He did not try to reason why. The helpful Spanish brought him logs for his roof beams, and they were more of a problem than ever. They were his friends, and they were all over the place. Whatever they should be doing to make a living was obviously being neglected, but his blunt query, "Shouldn't you be doing something else somewhere?" brought only shrugs and grins. They had developed a religious fervor, and the finishing of the church had become important to them. They refused to accept the idea that it was his church. "Look," he said, "you fellows build an altar. I don't know about such things. If this chapel church has got to have statues in it, you fix it about them. You let these bricks alone." They built an altar within his church while he was laying the long beams across the walls with 2 feet of log projecting on either side, as in the Pietras church. He laid a board across the beams, and at this point, Juan Archuleta insisted upon helping him again. Together they coated the boards thickly with adobe mud. Juan helped too with the adobe plaster on the inside walls of the church itself. The approach of Thursday posed a problem. If he went to work for Orville Livingston, there would be no one to control the Spanish. There was no longer any purpose in his work for Livingston. The nuns didn't need groceries anymore. "The man sent you all those bricks," his conscience said. "No, he didn't. He didn't send me anything. I gave him work for wages. He sent those bricks to old Mother, ashamed of how he said no to her." With that settled, he continued to work on the church. On Thursday afternoon, Father Gomez came out to see it. He walked all around it, making pleasant comments, then went to see Mother Maria Martha. She came to where Homer was working after the priest left. He was whitewashing the interior, and he did not want to stop. "Schmidt," she said, "I talk to you." "Ja," he said. It was his way of kidding her when she annoyed him. She sat on one of his pews and motioned for him to sit beside her. "It is finished. Nearly. The chapel," she said. "Almost." She nodded, her eyes momentarily closed. "Ja, God is good, Schmidt. Sunday, Father Gomez, say Mass in this chapel. The first Mass. You will sit there, the front pew." She pointed to the space before the altar where the pew had not yet been placed. She seemed very happy, very proud. She was, Homer knew, trying to do something for him, give him an honor, but his Baptist soul recoiled at the thought of sitting up front, in the first pew or any pew, at a Catholic Mass. He looked at her, and he couldn't take her happiness away or do anything to hurt her. "That will be nice," he said. He resumed his work with even greater urgency when she left him, understanding more clearly the sense of time that drove him. He joked with the Spanish, he ate with the nuns, he continued the English lessons after supper, but only half of him did these things. The other half listened always to the ticking of an invisible clock. On Saturday, not even the Spanish could find much to do. Homer used them in the cleanup, the removal and stacking of lumber that had been used for scaffolding, the breakup of mortar boxes, the leveling of the ground. This was not very interesting, so by early afternoon the Spanish had all left. Homer finished the policing himself, cleaning and leveling and removing trash. He sat then, smoking a cigarette and looking at his church. He had done it. Old Mother had said, "Build me a chapel church." He had built it. He had not known how to do it. He had had no plans. Adobe was a new stuff in his life. But there it was. His church stood strong with blue sky behind it, a church with angles that would be stiff and harsh in wood, soft in adobe. It had a pediment that he had made in place above the door with a crucifix at the peak. He rose and walked inside, glad to be alone. The sunlight flowed through 2 windows that had come out of row house bathrooms. The light took color from the diamonds in the panes and spilled that color on the whitewashed walls. The church in Piedras lacked this cathedral touch. It had only plain glass. His pews were in place and he walked down the aisle. He stood with his back to the altar and looked at the places where the 5 nuns would sit. His throat felt tight, and he had no thoughts at all. He walked hurriedly down the aisle and out into the sunlight. A flight of birds flew overhead. They were flying high and heading south. It was September, and his spring was gone, and his summer. Another flight of birds passed over, and he watched them out of sight. Those birds got a message, he thought. A man ought to have as much sense as a bird. The bell summoned him to supper, and Old Mother was feeling festive tonight. She had put a couple of her chickens in the pot, and there was chicken stew. All the nuns seemed excited and happy. They had a chapel church of their own and a priest coming to say Mass in the morning. It didn't seem like a night for English lessons. Homer brought his guitar in and played for them. He played some of the Spanish music that he remembered, not trying to sing it. Adios, Mariquita Linda. He played some of his own music too, and he sang that, Waterboy and Shenandoah and Deep River. He started playing the Latin music, and Sister Albertine sang, bringing the others in. He sang Latin sounds with them, and it was a happy evening, better than the night with the Spanish. He sat for a long time beside the station wagon after the nuns had retired. He told himself that he should have said goodbye to Old Mother, but it wasn't his way to put his feelings into words. Old Mother looked into a man's heart, and she had an understanding mind. When he was gone, nobody would have to tell her anything. She would just know. He'd like to say a word to Sister Albertine, too. He'd like to tell her that he liked her singing. She wasn't so strong as the other nuns, Sister Albertine, but she did delicate things like a man liked. She was the one who drew the picture of the wooden church that he couldn't ever build. She had made pictures of him, too. Somebody sent her a package from Germany with pencils and brushes and paper and paint. He hadn't seen her paint anything, but she'd made a lot of pictures of him with her pencils when he was singing or talking English at the nuns or working on the church. Better than a camera, she was. He had one of the pictures of himself that she gave him. It was signed with her name. Saying goodbye to her wasn't something that he could do either. He looked long at his church. Then he went inside. It was filled with silent shadow, except where starlight filtered through his small windows. He walked down the aisle, and he knew that there was something that he wanted to say to God about this church. He knelt in one of the pews, and he lifted up his heart, but no words came. It wasn't something that he could talk about, not even to God. A rabbit bounded across the clearing when he came out of the church. It vanished, and no other night creature moved or spoke. It was a deep night, a late hour, and that was the best time. The starter awakened the engine of the station wagon to noisy life, and a touch of the switch sent a flow of light down the rutted road. Homer Smith drove that road to the highway, and he knew that he was never coming back. A man couldn't roam forever, nor pleasure himself in strange cities indefinitely. There was a settling down time at the end of all of that. The road was lonely, and he sang softly to himself as he drove.